So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Euro Travel Rules Update webinar. I am Henry from the Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce. We, as I mentioned earlier, are going to be discussing Euro travel rules. I'm going to leave it up to the experts to give you more information. We are delighted to be joined by Emma Ward from the Port of Dover and Natalie Benville from Eurotunnel today. Before we kick things off properly, can I just mention that if you do have any questions throughout the session, please use the chat box to put these in, and then we will address these at the end in a dedicated Q&A. We have a very quick video that we're just going to share with you before the session starts, just to give you a bit of background into EES and what is happening over the next few months. And then we will be hearing from Emma and then on to Natalie for updates from their end. So I'm just going to get the video up for you now. That's good. You should be able to see that all now. And there we go. 1 second. There we go.
British travellers going to the European Union and the wider Schengen area, which includes Switzerland, Iceland and Norway, but excludes Ireland, are going to face some changes at borders. Here's what's happening. On the 12th of October 2025, the European Union will at last roll out its much delayed entry-exit system. This is designed to bring all of the Schengen area borders together so they are all digitally connected. And the idea will be that for your first trip, you put your passport into a kiosk. You will then be asked for 4 fingerprints as well as a facial biometric. That will involve you still having your passport checked and stamped by an official. So you're going to get kind of double red tape. That will last for 6 months till the 9th of April 2026. While this is happening, sometimes you might go through an entry-exit system border, sometimes you won't, and it will apply on the way in and the way out. But the plan is that by the 9th of April 2026, every border post is connected. From that moment onwards, all those stamps will cease. Everything will become digital. 6 months after that, in October 2026, the European Travel Information and Authorization System will begin. This is known as ETIAS. It's the same as the American ESTA or the British ETA. The idea is that before you go to the Schengen area, you are going to have to fill out an online form giving all your personal details, explaining whether you've got a criminal record. And once you've got that, and hopefully it will be an easy matter for the vast majority of travellers, you'll pay €20, about £17, and that will be a permit valid for 3 years or until your passport expires. For the first 6 months of ETIAS, so that will be from October 2026 through to April 2027, it's actually not going to be mandatory. If you meet the other conditions for entering Europe, then you will be allowed through. But I urge you to get an ETIAS as soon as they become available, because that way there's no chance that the airline is going to stop you travelling. Finally, by October 2027, it should be the case that everyone will have to have an ETIAS, and of course the entry-exit system will be working perfectly. What could possibly go wrong?
There we go. What could possibly go wrong? I'm sure Emma and Natalie are going to inform us of that very shortly. So that is enough from me. I hope you all got a bit of basic information from that video to just give you a quick whistle stop into what EES is before we do hear from the experts. So we are now going to pass over to Emma, who's going to be giving you an update from the Port of Dover's point of view. Emma, over to you. Do you want to share your screen?
Hi, good morning. As Henry said, I'm Emma Ward. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at the Port of Dover. And for my sins, I'm the lead for the introduction of EES at Port of Dover. I'm just going to share my screen. Can you see that? Yes, can we see it?
Yep, we can see that, Emma, if you just want to go into the slide. That's perfect.
Yep.
That's it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take you through a series of photographs and just talk you through it. It's a lot easier than trying to explain all the intricacies of how it's going to work in the Port Dover. What I will say before I start is that we only got permission to use the Western Docks facility for cars last October. So we have had less than a year to try and get the car facility up and running. So we're still under construction at the moment. So what you're seeing here, this is the Western Docks. So it's away from the ferry terminal. It's about a mile away from the ferry terminal. And this is where all of our car and coach registration will take place from October. So what you're actually seeing here is in the where my cursor is. I'm hoping you can see my cursor. So that is part of the car facility, and we will have in total 72 kiosks for cars. So we have 2 lanes here, and then we have what we call lane 1 here, which is just by our coach facility, which has pretty much is nearly finished now. And so that will be ready for the 1st of November. And then in the grey area here, that's our coach building. And so I'll talk you through how that's all going to work. There is 2 entrances into the facility. So if you're travelling M2A2, you'll come down Jubilee Way along the A20 and in through what we call Union Street. And if you're coming from the M20, A20, you'll come in round Limekiln roundabout, over a viaduct and into the facility, into the swim lanes here. So all of that work is going on at the moment. Union Street is due to finish, ready for the 12th of October. So what we are doing in Dover from the 12th is we will be diverting all of our coach traffic, all of our foot passenger traffic, and we will also be doing freight from the 12th of October. We do not intend to start car registration until the 1st of November, which has been agreed with the French. So if I take you through some, so what you're seeing now is the swim lanes, what we call swim lanes, which is basic queuing space to the coach facility. And on your right, that's the new coach facility, and we can process 2 coaches simultaneously. So what will basically happen is a coach will turn up, everything will offload where you see the big letter A and into the building. So this is all the new facility. So it's just like, it looks very similar to inside of an airport when you walk in. You've got your EES kiosk to your left, and then you've got your Schengen border at the end of the coach building. What is different for Dover is that the border for coaches only has moved to the Western Docks. So we've been very lucky in that respect that the whole of the coach operation will happen in the Western Docks. So they won't have to then repeat any kind of border process when they get to the ferry terminal. So this is the Schengen border. So what you're seeing now is a security seal. So what happens when the coach has gone through all of its ES processing, it's gone through the border, they get back on the coach, and then we seal all of the doors with these security labels. And so basically they've been designed in such a way, so if they've been tampered, they can see visually straight away whether they've been tampered with. So we seal all the coach leaves the Western Docks, and oh, I didn't even know that happens. Here we go. Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it.
And so they're designed in such a way so they don't rip off the paint on the coaches as well. And then you can see straight away whether it's been tampered with. So then they'll come up to the Eastern Docks, the coach, they'll go through what we call a check lane and a PAF border officer will be stood underneath that canopy and checking those seals. So if the seal is still intact, it will go straight through to check-in. There will be no more process. What I will emphasize though, if that seal is broken in any way, those coaches will have to go back to the Western Docks and start the process again. They will not accept any coaches that have got a broken seal. So that's one of the key messages that we're sending out to the coach operators. It's once that seal's on, that's it. They've just got to come straight to the Eastern Docks. So that's the coaches. And then we move on to cars. So as you can see, it is still a construction site. As I say, we only got permission last October. But actually what you're looking at is what we call lane 1. And they look similar to a bus shelter is probably the best way to describe it. And inside those shelters are kiosks. So in each set of kiosks, there's 8 kiosks in each section of those lanes. And what basically will happen is the cars it's like a drive-through. They'll drive up, park up, get out, do the process, get back into the car. But it is not the border there. They will then drive to the Eastern Docks and go through the border as they do now. So this will be properly live for the 1st of November to be able to accept the first lot of cars. So all of third country nationals and British people will have to travel through this facility from the 1st of November, unless anything changes. Who knows what's going to change, but that's currently the plan that we're working to. One of the other things that we had to put in place as an agreement to use the Western Docks is what we call the WETA system, which is the West to East Transit Assurance System, which is basically, it monitors cars entering the Western Docks, leaving the Western Docks and transiting that 1 mile to Eastern Docks. And so basically what happens at times, we've got like a agreed transit times between the Western Docks and the Eastern Docks. And if it goes beyond that time, if it's stopped for any reason, PAF will get an alert in their booth that a car has stopped for some reason. So this was one of the security arrangements we had to put in place as part of our project. So that will be up and running for the 1st of November as well. All of our communications will start to go out on the 23rd of September. I know that sounds late, but currently we still don't understand what the French implementation plans look like. So we cannot do anything before that. They're due to go out that week as well. So we should get a really good idea. So all of the comms for customers will start to go out that week. And I think that's kind of where we are now. We've got a lot of animations that will start going out on social media. I've done a video that's very similar to the Simon Calder one, but it's very Dover specific. All of that will start to go out that week as we ramp up for the start of this. I did put questions, but I didn't know if I've got any. But I'll stop sharing because I'm sure Nat will be getting ready to come on. I don't know if there's any questions, Henry.
Not any immediate questions, but if you do have any questions throughout the session, please do put them in the chat and we will get to all of those at the end. So thank you ever so much. We will now pass over to Natalie. Natalie, would you like to share your screen for us?
Yep, I will do that. I'm going to turn my video off because it keeps telling me it's unstable. So just to give me a bit of a background. Okay. So I don't think I really need to say much more because I think Emma's covered it all for us. But what I will do is show you our solution and how we kind of dealt with, you know, the new border controls that were coming in. We are slightly different, obviously, to the port in that we know who's booking with us. Obviously, we are the owner of the Channel Tunnel and Eurotunnel and also of the shuttle service. So one of the first things that we kind of implemented once this goes live is when a customer will make a booking, whether that be a coach operator or a tourist, a passenger, they will select whether they have entered into the EU before, since the start of EES, or if they haven't. That then helps us kind of distinguish where they need to go when they're on our terminal, which hopefully will make a little bit of sense when I show you this slide. So our actual EES zone that we've created in Folkestone has been ready since last October. So as much as that's quite infuriating for us from a project perspective, it's given us a lot of time to be able to tweak any amendments that we needed to make, anything around vehicles and how they're directed into the zone. So just to give you a little bit of context on how we've come up with this solution, the graph on the left is the terminal as it is today with the new EES zone. So you can see here vehicles would come through check-in like they would today. What we've done is we've utilised the project to increase our buffer capacity so that if for any reason there are ever any incidents that occur on site, it doesn't need to be just a border incident, it could be anything. We've got more holding capacity on site now for vehicles. So as you travel around the terminal, you go through check-in, all of this blue area on the left-hand side is now the new buffer capacity for our tourist vehicles and for our coach vehicles as well. So all of these orange lines that you've got along here are the gantries. So these are new gantries that you can see that have been installed. And that will essentially divert the traffic into the lanes that it needs to be in. So those passengers that are actually EU residents that don't need to go through the EES zone will be directed to the left-hand side, completely around from the newly created EES zone. And then on the right-hand side, it will basically direct you into a lane that has one of these barriers here in the bottom right-hand side. As you approach that barrier, you have an electronic screen there that is all monitored ANPR around the site. So as you approach that barrier, it picks up your ANPR. It will tell you what lane and kiosk that you need to go to. And at the front of the EES zone here, it then again directs you to that. So you could, for instance, be given a B7 booth. You would direct yourself into the EES zone. And then as you can see on the bottom left here, that is what our booths look like. So you have 2 kiosks per vehicle. So we've got 53 vehicles at any one time, and you have 106 kiosks. So that is just to allow, obviously, families, anybody that's traveling in groups that can process. We've got 2 kiosks for that. Obviously, the rules that have been implemented, everybody over the age of 12 needs to go through this. Now, we do have a tablet form as well that is possible for anybody that has mobility issues, that's unable to get out of the vehicle, and obviously any children, babies that aren't able to clearly get to the kiosks themselves. So we have the tablet form as well, which I think actually the port do as well. And it just gives that reassurance if for any reason people aren't able to get out of the vehicle, they are still able to go through the process itself. So if you're continuing the journey as a tourist, you go through the EES zone, you implement and input all of your new biometrics there at the kiosks. You would leave that EES zone and then you enter into our car park as you would today, into the terminal building if you wish, and then you would head on to the border as that is today, and that's not changing. So as you do get to the PAF booth, they would have there whether it's green, you've completed that, they're all happy with that, and they'll be able to flag you through, but they'll also there be able to pick up anything that wasn't possible. One thing to note also is the way that we've built our EES zone, it is split into 2 sections. The EU have called travellers in 2 different forms. You've got a primo entrant into the EU, which is a first-time entrant, or a subsequent. That is something that obviously is quite difficult, I think, for customers to try and get their head around, but we'll be able to direct them based on their booking as to whether they are that primo or subsequent. So slightly different to the port, we have had to build this in France as well, because obviously people are coming into the UK. So we need to be able to track when they've gone in and out. Slightly different in France, the way that it's been done. We've got 59 vehicles at any one time, and that's 118 kiosks. And for those of you that have ever travelled with us before, it's actually where the PET building used to be. So we've utilised that space and built 2 new EES zones, exactly the same template, just to try and give that uniformity between the 2 sites so that as customers, it's as easy as possible. One thing to note, very similar to the port, coaches and freight will be going from the 12th of October, and then tourist will roll out in November. Again, working alongside the French on their testing and scheme on how they see it work rolling out. Obviously, and I think Emma may have touched on this, but part of it, when you are going through the EES zone for the first time, you do have to have a PAF officer present, just to make sure that you are who you say you are, you're inputting the details correctly. But on your return entry into the EU, that doesn't need to happen. So you can still go through the EES kiosks, but you won't have to have a PAF officer there. But that goes into our operational plans, and that's what we're working on, as are obviously the port at the same time. So we're really confident. As I said, it's been in place for a long time for us on site, so it's allowed us to tweak where vehicles are being sent, etc. And one thing to note, actually, and I don't know if people are aware of this, but from a freight perspective, the majority of freight drivers that obviously are in the UK tend to be European, actually, and only 10% are non-European. So all of the processing for the EES formalities will be done at the PAF booth for us on site. It will be a dedicated lane for non-EU. And then, like I say, they will have that processed as they go through the booth themselves. So I think that's it for me, Henry. I'll stop sharing.
Perfect. Natalie, thank you ever so much. So that does lead us to the end of both of those presentations. However, we do have a fair few questions in the chat. I've noted them all down, so we're just going to go through those in order, and I will ask that you unmute and ask the question yourself, just so it's a bit more interactive. So Sue Rathmore, you had a couple of questions. Did you want to unmute and start asking your first and then your second one, if that's okay?
Yes, certainly. So my question was, is this a one-time thing, or do we have to do it every time we go through either Dover Port or the Eurotunnel?
You want me to answer that?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do it every single time
Right.
you travel. You will have to go through that facility. So the only time that will change, and that, interrupt if you don't think I'm saying this, the only time that would change is if there is an app produced that allows you to pre-register as a second or third time entrant into, but if you're a first time entrant, you will always have to go through that facility, and that will carry on unless there is an app produced.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
My other question
And
was, sorry, go on.
Sorry, no, just to add on that, it's the same for airports. So every time you'll be entering the EU, when you land in that European country, you'll still have to go through that process. They won't take as much detail once you're that subsequent traveller, but yeah, you will have to through any port of entry into the EU.
All right, that's very helpful. I also asked when it starts for Eurotunnel, but you said November, didn't you, for that, Natalie?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sue, thank you very much. Michaela Thomas, you had a question. Would you like to unmute and ask your question as well?
Yeah, hi everyone. My question was, if a passenger departs the UK before the checks are in place and returns after the checks are implemented, do the rules that apply on departure apply to them?
Yeah, from a Eurotunnel perspective, yeah, it does, yeah. So, and the same, Port Calais, they've got a new facility, Port Dunkirk. So yeah, they do.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. I believe next it was Sarah Maynard. You had a couple of questions for us. Would you like to unmute and ask away?
Yes. Hello, I thought I'd put a camera on to make it a bit easier for you. Two quick questions. So if you've got two people travelling together and one has an EU passport and one doesn't, what's the implication there?
So for Dover, you will have to go through the facility, regardless of whether.
Yeah.
Yes.
So same for Eurotunnel. Yeah, that non-EU trumps the EU essentially.
Lovely. And someone's asked me to ask about biometrics. They're a bit uncomfortable about giving biometric information. I just wondered if anybody had any idea of the history of why they're doing that on top of the fact you've got a passport and a valid ticket and a form as well.
It's an EU regulation for entering the EU now. It's not a port or a Eurotunnel requirement as such. It's a border requirement entering into the EU.
Lovely, that's great. I'll feed that back. Thank you ever so much indeed.
Perfect, Sarah. Thank you very much. Next, we've got Andy Baker. You had a few questions and points. Did you want to quickly unmute and ask those? Yeah, Andy, were you wanting to ask yours? If not, I can quickly run through them. Oh, there we go. Perfect.
There we go. Hi, yeah. So, yeah, I use Eurotunnel for a few reasons, but sometimes I hire a van to export commercial goods, and I follow the process that I have to do that, and then go get it customs cleared. I currently use Belgium as my customs clearance agent. Is it the same process if you're in a Eurotunnel? Always get confused with me when I hire a van. I do my own export and import. Have I still got to go through those lanes? I assume are there lanes for that scenario?
Yeah, absolutely. We factored that in.
Okay, and would I then have to, you know, the security seal that was in the, I believe, the Port of Dover slideshow for the coaches? Is that similar with freight as well?
No, so we're the same as Eurotunnel for freight. You just come to the Eastern Docks and everything will be done at the booth.
Right, okay.
Perfect. Andy, thank you very much. And you did also mention about
I had a couple of
the
questions.
slides. We're recording this session, so the recording will be published later on in September once everything's kind of ironed out. So yeah, that will be shared with everyone who was here today as well.
Okay, is there sorry, sharing it this month, did you say?
Yeah, it'll be shared this month. We'll be sharing it later this month.
Yeah, no problem. And yeah, it seems overly complicated, but hey, it's punishment for Brexit, right? What's the estimated delay? So I always use FlexiBus if I'm just driving in a car, which is like super. I paid a premium to get through quick because I work abroad a lot. Well, 90 days with my 80. What's the estimated delay at say Eurotunnel? I don't really use the ferry, so yeah, at Eurotunnel, I can on a good day I can get through in 10 minutes. What do you think this is going to be?
So based on the modelling that based on the modelling that we've done, looking at all the different kind of scenarios, we anticipate it'll be an added 5 minutes on top of your journey time. It's actually really smooth once you get to the kiosks. The way that we've based it is like an airport, so people tend to be used to that kind of process of scanning your passport, your fingerprints, your photos. So yeah, based on the modelling, it'll be 5 minutes additional journey time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andy. And then we had one final question. Guillaume, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name.
It's all right. Don't worry, Guillaume. No, thanks, Natalie and Emma for those presentations. I'm regular customer of the Port of Dover. I mean, I take the ferry quite a lot, so it's very nice to know what this canopy is about, because I always look at things and I'm just like, what is it? What is it? But that's very cool. And it's linked to the latest question we had, but because at the moment, most of the time, the FDS advised me to arrive 1 hour before at the port. But I'm just thinking, is this going to change for British travelers? Do they have to? What would be the recommendation? I'm guessing for the EU passport citizen, it's not going to add much. But for how long is going to be the advice to arrive at the port, or even at the Eurotunnel as well? That would be good to know.
So how we've been working with our ferry operators on this, because as I say, we're not owner operator like Eurotunnel, which you know, and so a lot of our issues are caused by people coming too early. So what we've been working with the ferry operators is that they will put a window of time to arrive to the EES facility before the sailing, and the advice I think we've come to is 2 hours. 2 hours before you're sailing, you arrive at the EES facility. But with all of our modelling as well, all of ours is like a 5 minute extra. You know, we've gone for a very, very similar solution to an airport, very similar to Eurotunnel. So we're saying the same, but obviously at peak times, you've got that cumulative effect of everything arriving. You know, we can have a 12,000 car day at peak summer, but you're right, EU will go straight to the Eastern Docks. It doesn't have to go to the Western Docks, doesn't need to, but everything else. And we've based all of our modelling on around 600 an hour being processed through that facility.
I'm sure you've thought about it, but you've just said that people sometimes are coming too early and that creates delays. I'm guessing you've already thought about it, but is there a way that the FDS for example, do they have a way to distinguish between customers that are EU citizen or customers that are not? Because otherwise, if it's a blanket 2 hours, everyone is going to come before. But if you're EU citizen, you can just go a bit quicker. I don't know. Have you thought?
Yeah. So it'll be split at the front of the. Even if people aren't compliant, we will have a system at the front of the Eastern Docks that sends you back to the Western Docks if you haven't done it, and just to allow EU into the terminal.
Yeah.
But the tech, so when I talked about our wetter system, the transit system, that is then it's all tied into ANPR. So the next step is then to feed all of the booking information into that system. But again, going back to the fact we're not owner operator,
Yes.
we've had to get permission from all the 3 operators to be able to take their booking information. So it's not been an easy thing for us to do this. And but we are very, very hopeful that this is going to work very well. But it's going to be like anything, you know, as soon as we start, we'll be learning from day one. You know, if we're absolutely honest, none of us really understand how this is going to work in practical terms. So once it starts, that's the one thing we are good at with Eurotunnel and Port Dover, is we start to put the operational efficiencies in place as we go along. So in some respects, it's good that it's coming in at a slower pace, because it gives us time to learn and get better.
Yes. No, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. That does bring us towards the end of our session now. However, Andy did just have one final question. I'm just going to read this one out on your behalf, Andy, just so we can quickly answer, if that's okay. He asked, could you just give a quick explanation of what we do at these kiosks, please? So if either of you were able to just very quickly answer that, that'd be perfect. And then we will finish the session.
You want to do that now?
I don't mind, Emma. Yeah. So it literally is scanning your passport in a reader, your fingerprints on a reader, and it takes a photo of you on the actual machine itself. There's a camera built in.
Okay, so with the Eurotunnel, for example, I'll go to the booth when I first turn up, sign myself in, go to that kiosk, do those bits, then I go back. Then I'll end up going down to where I do both passport controls. Do I still do French and UK?
Yeah.
Then I go to Flexi Plus.
Yeah, UK first, then French. Yeah.
Then I jump on my train. Then I get to France.
Yeah.
And have I got to go through that kiosk again once I'm in?
No. That's just only on arrival.
Once I'm in France.
Yeah.
But I've got to do it in reverse on the way back.
On the way back, yeah.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you ever so much. As I mentioned, that does now bring us to the end of this webinar. Firstly, I'd just like to say a massive thank you once again to Emma and Natalie for hosting today. It's super informative, and taking the time for the Q&A at the end as well. That's much appreciated. Next, I'd just like to thank all of you who were in attendance today and those who interacted in the Q&A. That was fantastic as well. Like I mentioned, this session has been recorded, so as soon as those slides are up and running, we will get that all shared with you. I've been Henry from the Kent and Victor Chamber of Commerce, and I wish you all a great rest of your day. Thank you ever so much.